interest rates are a moment in time metric, yields are an ongoing metric.
COVID happened, obviously. What was safe? Industrial.
The luxury of choice for the right asset, the right tenancy, the right deal to help you cement your future portfolio in the right location is a game changer.
Industry isn't going to be affected by AI anytime soon.
Rents are going to keep going up, so your yield on your purchase price will keep going up, but the interest rates will eventually come down. Industrial property has been on an absolute tear in commercial property investing. But the question is it just the start of the boom? Is there more to go? Is it finished? Where to next for the industrial market? So let's unpack that in today's episode, because these insights will help shape the future of your portfolio if industrial investing has been in it or is on your mind. Welcome to the Commercial Property Investing Show. Let's get into it. Chris, we're here to talk industrial property today because it's been a big booming market over the last few years, maybe even half a decade plus now in the commercial space. Why has industrial outperformed, in your opinion, in comparison to so many commercial asset classes?
Yeah, so I might take this back, Arj, to the early 2020s when industrial cap rates were sitting on average between 6 to 7%. And then COVID happened, obviously, and then people will stop rocking up to the office. As you know, you're part of that. People stopped rocking up to shopping centres. And institutional funds needed to park their money somewhere, especially if there were the portfolios that I was taking care of back at Lendlease and back at Mirvac. We had strong office and retail assets, but those assets no longer became defensive. They became exposed due to COVID. So where did we need to position our portfolio towards? Safer assets. What was safe? Industrial.
Yeah, so seek to safety was one big part. I totally agree with you on that, because it's that moment where like there's still this physical laborious, physical build, physical delivery, transport, logistics, physical keyword and all of that, right?
Space.
And so the other thing that can't be underestimated is this e-com boom, the e-commerce space, the need for proximity, because man, like the way consumers are today, our expectations are getting like example, the middle class today is like the elitist and high class expectations of decades ago. Do you know what I mean? The lower class today is the middle and high class expectations of decades ago. And it's fine, because with technology, with time, with digital AI, with progress, human progress, that's only expected, right? Like, you know, I remember back in the days when deliveries of stuff used to take 3 or 4 weeks, and it was like, that's just normal. But now it's like, man, where's my parcel at?
Yeah.
It's been a few days. Do you know what I mean? And so the e-com space also made industrial proximity to key nodes, key hubs. People that were drop shipping now wanted space here. Mm-hmm. People that were using overseas ports and shipping now go, I want to stock up. I want to keep supply. I want to be ahead. People who are never needing to be logistics masters as part of their businesses, only focused on sales and marketing, now need to be logistics, operations, sales and marketing.
That's right.
Inventory, procurement, all these different things that needed to be a thing that never were there before now are there. That feeds into asset classes, because business decisions aren't business decisions in isolation without a physical presence to manage that business decision. And so e-com boom, the chase for space, and even the shift in retail presence.
Absolutely.
The retail presence shifted with footprint desired reducing. And with that desired footprint reducing, they don't just say walk around less and have less products on store both together. They go, we need the products to be here to service the store, but can we have sharp and tight proximity to key shopping nodes? So if we do deliver the same service with less rental expense, we can have greater footprint on the industrial side, which is a cheaper, less premium on the rent in comparison to tightly managed shopping rent, right?
Exactly. Omnichannel.
And so they suddenly have that presence to go, let me bring stock from here, let me store a lot more, let me solve my operational logistics part, but then on the retail part, let me pay less, let me give a more tight experience. Because you know what else in shopping? If you see a tighter space with more people in it, psychology, it looks better, it looks popular. It's why those hole-in-the-wall bakeries with only 5 people in the line can sometimes have more people, have more virality effect on social media than an actual bakery that's the same quality product, same shop fit out that looks amazing, aesthetically pleasing, but double the size, looks empty, not as viral, not as busy, not as cool. So even just retail reduction and that as a strategy has elevated businesses,
100%.
not just financially, but marketing. And then as a result, industrial picks up. It's wild, right? The changes, and more so from an investment lens, not business, how that impacts industrial property. It's huge.
No, it's massive, mate. Exactly. Reducing your retail footprint, which is expensive, to making your efficiency, productivity space bigger, so you can do more fulfillment, but you're also doing that marketing lens, having that, people lining out the door and
Massive. Now, mate, I wanted to talk about a deal. If it's going to been in the archives, but this deal will come to mind because it's a perfect example of that in play, and not just in retail, but even in showrooms. Remember Mercedes-Benz? We picked up a deal for a client with Mercedes-Benz. Correct me if I'm wrong if it's not BMW or anything. I'm just trying to know the memory back.
Mercedes-Benz.
Good. So Steve, our head of acquisitions at InvestorKit, if you're watching this, sorry mate, it wasn't BMW. He's a huge BMW fan. But that Mercedes-Benz is a classic example of this strategy in play. What would have just been showroom footprint, instead of extending showroom footprint, instead of new showrooms, which, by the way, how often do they come up? Never.
Very rare.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of that, and also people don't recognize showrooms, not just from a business space, they're also community. Because when your showroom in Castle Hill, for example, in Sydney, is parked there of Merck or someone, that's community. If they suddenly go, we're no longer in Castle Hill, we're somewhere else, that shifts a lot of thinking and a lot of brand, connection to that area. So instead, what do? They get an industrial. Talk about that deal a little bit, because that to me is an example of the popularity of this asset class and just how important it is for so many businesses to have this hybrid approach to their growth.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So this deal was $3.2 million circa, 8 kilometers away from Brisbane CBD. So if you think of industrial, what underpins industrial value is proximity to CBDs, ports, and via access to major arterial roads. Now, when you think of industrial, you want a Mercedes-Benz to tenant your industrial property, right? But you have to have those key aspects. You have to have that access, that direct access to the CBD, the direct access to the port, and then those major arterial roads as well.
Massive.
Yeah.
And so with that sort of stuff, what sort of yields can you remember roughly we were at for that one?
So back in the day, which was probably roughly just over 12 months ago, about a year and a half ago, 6.4% we secured that, net yields.
Wow. So now I know yields have compressed, but are yields too compressed now in industrial, or do you think there's still healthy yields and still deals to be made there?
I think it depends where you buy. Right? So if you're buying in pockets of Sydney and pockets of Melbourne, you're looking at sub 5% net yields. If you're looking in the same pockets in Brisbane, those have compressed from, we purchased at 6.4%, but that same asset would be 5.5% today.
Which is still healthy, because what investors don't recognize is that interest rates are a moment in time metric, yields are an ongoing metric. If interest rates are a moment in time, we know that they can move up and they can also move down. But yields, typically with the nature of the assets we're buying, the locations we're buying, the due diligence, the industry composition, it means that rents are going to keep going up. So your yield on your purchase price will keep going up, but the interest rates will actually eventually come down. Sure. And so from that perspective, what may seem like a great 6.2, 6.4 a year and a half ago, today at 5.5 is still a really solid yield. So the answer there is that yields really haven't compressed too much in certain locations, and they still fall in that sweet spot of 5%. That's right. Now, which markets in the industrial space, in your opinion, if you were to say the top 3 to 5, certain cities, regional centers, capital centers, still show a lot of industrial upside, in your opinion?
Yeah, so at the moment we're seeing Perth at 2% vacancy rates.
Yeah.
With the most recent data from Knight Frank, and also Adelaide.
Tight industrial markets.
Very tight industrial markets. Over 6% net yields in those locations, depending on the asset quality, but let's just say on average. And we'd like to see growth. Well, we're likely to see growth in those assets because commercial's underpinned by the leasing market. And we want businesses fighting over the space, or we want to be buying in markets where businesses are fighting over the space, and they're likely to fight over the space in low vacancy areas like that.
Now, another two commercial pockets, we've also seen some pretty exciting deals, and has been some parts of Melbourne. You've seen strategic parts of Melbourne where you've been getting yield still in the fives in front, but with those fives in front, they're edging higher and higher in the fives, whereas Melbourne used to be predominantly this 3 and 4 city, being quite low yielding. And then the second one's Newcastle. That population growth happening in that centre, the strong local economy. Like, I just really feel that that city's transforming in front of our eyes to be a major, major regional centre, and almost like a mini capital, like a proper capital. And so if you think about it, like in comparison to the Darwin, Canberras and Hobarts, it's basically right there, right, as a capital. So I feel like these 4 cities are definitely showing those signs of industrial sort of dominance or recovery as well. Now, when it comes to the tenant profiles in industrial properties, what profiles or what type of tenants have you noticed get the best use of space and best longevity as tenants, and tend to have the least issues when it comes to, industrial vacancy?
So mainly any business that requires storage, so at least 7 to 10 meters of ceiling heights. So what I'm seeing at the moment is what's been really strong, a wholesaler that provides goods and services that relate to construction. For instance, plumbers, electricians, sparkies, those types of products. We're seeing a growing amount of those, and we're really happy to acquire those assets, Arjun, because you and I both know that a tradie still needs to use his hands to build things and to put, switchboards together and plumbing pieces together. I'm not technical, so sorry, I don't know the technical side of that, but we know that construction's increasing in these locations, and we know that industry isn't going to be affected by AI anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely, because then you've got the AI component and the lack of disruption in some of these parts. You've also got the population boom that's happening. And remember, residential and commercial flip supply on its head. Residential supply is good for commercial property.
That's right.
Because residential supply increasing is building, construction, activity, proximity, spend, grouping of population, everything like that, density of population, because the average lot size in 1970s and 80s started with a 7 and 8 in front in terms of square meterage for residential property. Today, that's turning into high 3s, low 4s. So high 3s, low 4s being so much more common is a clear sign of more people in an area that is fitting now than there was before. And as a result of that, those industrial properties in the proximity across all of it becomes more jobs, more customers, more people, more construction, more proximity, more activity. So definitely those type of trades jobs have a big impact on industrial in terms of the ideal tenant profiles. Now, when it comes to industrials, there is one mistake that people make though. They also think that they're playing in the same game when they get those extremely, extremely small bay industrials, sub 1 million, sub 1.5 million in today's market, as part of a major strata complex with just copy-paste industrials. Where can they go wrong when it comes to those if they don't manage those deals in the right area, the right locations?
Yeah, so where they go wrong is if they're buying a product where it's easy to build and there's incoming supply, that gives tenants the ability to negotiate cheaper rents because there's more supply, there's more to choose from. It's easier to go lease somewhere else who will take the deal instead of where they currently are. So where they can go wrong is in 3 ways. One, incoming supply, which is going to stagnate growth. The second is if you're not checking the strata or the strata minutes, there could be issues with the building, and nothing might be wrong to your building or your roof, but you might have to pay for someone else's roof issues because you're all pulled together in the one complex. Another issue could be you're only really getting tenants that are mum and dad businesses.
Yeah.
You're not attracting the big, large tenants that are almost guaranteed income because their revenue or their business is doing really well as compared to what they're paying in rents. But if it's a mum and dad business, typically the rent is around about 20 to 30%. That's the occupancy cost of leasing one of these places out to them.
Yeah, it's a big part there, because also here's the thing, you're going to see shorter leases and higher turnover, because typically in those spaces, your lifelong business isn't in those spaces. Your business for the first few years as you start is in those spaces. If that business just gets even the slightest traction, suddenly that space is too small. And with industrial, if you double the land component or if you double the build space component, it doesn't mean that if you get 2 commercial smaller blocks, they're the same price as 1 bigger. Sometimes that 1 bigger can be cheaper, even if it's equivalent space, than 2 smaller.
That's right.
And so because you're paying the premium of that whole strata complex and everything that comes with it, the other thing that means is that you'll probably see a lot of 1-and-1s, a lot of 2-and-2s. So that turnover, that transition, leasing managers lick their lips when it comes to the work they get on strata complexes.
It's volume.
Right, volume, and they can just stay in one complex and just keep riding it. The other thing as well with those small bays is that it is as simple for some places to be a removalist truck or 2, and they could just find that next cheaper dollar per square meter. And then 1 truck or 2, which by the way, they own the trucks too. They'll probably be able to do their own moves. They'll probably even have the trades too. They'll do their own trades and just move it along. No extra labor cost, no extra trucks. Then probably being a mum and dad business, they do it out of hours too.
Absolutely.
Probably didn't cost them anything. But as soon as they move, they say 10,000 per annum.
That's right.
20,000 per annum. Just because of that. And so that high supply, that short-term transition of leases, these things don't make it the best, which is why when it comes to industrial, if you can climb up to that sort of 3 mil plus purchase point, 2.5 mil at minimum, but if you can climb up to those multi-million-dollar deals, yes, there's still great deals in cheaper purchase prices, but when you have all those forces upon you, they just make them the rarest ones. Whereas they come up more often in that bigger price, and as a buyer of commercial property in a strong industry, the luxury of choice for the right asset, the right tenancy, the right deal to help you cement your future portfolio in the right location is a game changer. But overall, we're seeing the industrial property boom still in motion. It's not is it too late? There is more room to grow because we still see tight vacancy in select cities. We still see tight pressure. We still see yields in the 5 to 7 box, and we still see strong future businesses that are going to continue on in the environments that the world is heading towards. Technology, AI, flip it, population growth and supply growth, flip it, equals these 2 things, resilient businesses in this environment of trades and of industrial tenant profiles, and also high density, high population growth in more concentrated residential areas near those industrial profiles. So industrial property is still here to stay. The boom continues in that space, and we don't see it slowing down anytime soon in those lower supply pockets. So thanks for joining us for another episode and going deep into commercial property. In this particular one, the question around the industrial property boom.